Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Super Fantify. This week's show, we're talking about TV shows of the supernatural, fantasy, and/or science fictional genre. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about Onmyo Kaiten Rebirth Verse, Season 1, Episode 4. Great episode. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. So we're immediately picking up where the last episode left off. The thing that Sime summons isn't Shikigami. It seems to be like a different thing entirely, just called a guardian. And apparently it's one of 12. So it's like, that's fascinating. I'm wondering, I mean, obviously with just the obvious difference between like how it operates and how the Shikigami operates, because you have to basically put your soul into the Shikigami to turn them into what they do. But like, how do the guardians operate? Are they more like autonomous, like, I guess maybe it's like a mech versus a robot. Maybe that's like just the distinction. Whatever the case may be. Luckily, Sime was able to stop Takeru. When he was talking about it during the fight, he almost made it seem like Takeru was like corrupted. So I'm wondering like if some residual energy from the Oni like imparted itself upon him. Maybe like that is something you kind of risk in a fight with an Oni, and maybe Takeru just, but it seemed like maybe it seemed initially like it stems from his own constitution, because his power kind of like erupted, and triggered. So I'm like, is there any correlation between what Takeru can do and the Oni? Because even Sime is like, whatever he can do, it's not Onmyo related. It's power from within him. So who knows what that fully entails. But either way, Takeru wakes up in the aftermath of everything, and they're obviously a little hesitant, because like, right, we don't want you to go lose control. And he's happy to see Tsukimiya, but then they show him what he did, like the destruction he caused. And Sime sees this as an opportunity. He's like, the great power that is in you, we're going to need it, because the upcoming centennial pandemonium, basically at one point every 100 years, the boundary to the Oni world like blurs with this world, Zenji Heian, and because of that, they can basically fight what are essentially Oni gods. And the way he said it is like 7 times. So I guess it's like maybe 7 back-to-back fights, or maybe it's supposed to be like every 7, like after defeating 7 gods, you basically like perma-winners. I don't know what he meant by that, like in what the reference in 7 times, because it seemed like it was supposed to be like, it's supposed to be a gauntlet of you have to fight like 7 different gods, or is it just supposed to be a situation of you just have to win 7 times in totality? So like if you win back to back to back to back for 700 years, because for whatever the case may, no, I would assume it's like just the back to back in that one time, every 100 years, because he says, well, maybe not, because he said like that's how we've kept the peace for the millennium. Which we also find out Sime has been alive for that long, which, Takeru doesn't ask too many questions, but I guess because it's just kind of like an accepted fact that he's been around that long. But I'm wondering, is that supposed to be implied like maybe he's not human? Maybe he's like an android or nothing? Because once again, this world isn't just like it's a different world, but it has fantastical elements, but there is like high level technology as well, but maybe that's more magic than it is technology. But I'm curious, like, could he, like, how, like, are you blessed by the gods or something and that gave you immortality? I mean, how far does that immortality stretch? Is it just like you live forever but you can still die by other means, you just won't die from old age? Or are you like, no matter what you sustain, you will always regenerate and you will always outlive everyone? Or is it, like I said, you're just not human to begin with? Because he's with Takeru, because Takeru, after seeing the destruction he causes, he's like, I got to do something. So he goes and apologizes to the families of like the places like he helped destroy like during a fight, and he apologizes because it's like, I did this bad thing. And I guess he's kind of used to being on the opposite ends of people, just being who he is, the delinquent that he kind of was, and his environment kind of made him into the delinquent. But it's like, we'll get to that in a second, but I think he's used to kind of be on that side of things and being kind of blamed for stuff, so he kind of takes it on the chin. But Sime shows up to be like, hey, it's not just on him, I'm the one that brought him into the Onmyoji, so it is like on me because of my decisions. He also tries to make Takeru a 5-star, but like he talks to Atsunaga later on, and he's like, I don't think I'm gonna do it. And he's like, why not? It's like, it's such an honor. And he's like, yeah, that's my point. Like, why should an amateur like me like be in that position? I mean, you got to give it up to Takeru from having like that rationale to be like, but I'm not worthy of that position, and it feels wrong to take that position when there's other people more qualified than me. I mean, because his only reason for becoming an Onmyoji in the first place is he wanted to protect Tsukimiya, and for him, it's like, I've done that now, so I've stopped her death, so it should be okay. We'll discuss that later too, but you also have Tsukimiya asking Takeru out. Not officially on a date, but more like, yo, let's hang out and kind of like enjoy a little bit of like the festivities. And, you know, she's in a yukata, she's got a pouty face, and he's like, oh my God, she's even more adorable and cute. And, you know, they're having fun, and obviously you have Atsunaga kind of cock blocking him, like, or at least ruining their enjoyment. And I love that he like dragged Yura along, and he compliments her, being like, oh, she looks good, and she's like, I don't need that doesn't make me feel good, you complimenting me. I don't think Atsunaga, I don't know, like, he definitely cares for Tsukimiya, but I don't know if it's in a romantic sense. It's just like, she's this beautiful like embodiment, like, she kind of, it's a weird way to say it, but like, she belongs to everyone, and for one person to monopolize that to get close to her, Atsunaga doesn't appreciate it. So I think his jealousy does stem from there, or maybe it is the thing that he has feelings for her, but I'd assume there'd be a Yura in him thing, but maybe not. Either way, he sabotages the game, but Takeru finds him, and all four of them end up hanging out. And and I love that, like, they end up taking a group photo, and Atsunaga's takeaway is like, oh my God, I'll make this a family heirloom. But they go off and enjoy the festivities. But Takeru, you know, is off on his own because it's got a lot to think about. You know, for one, you know, Seimei's offer about becoming a 5-star, the Centennial Pandemonium coming up, and him participating in it, plus a whole conversation that ends up coming up between him and Tsukimiya, because she's like, are you planning on going home? I mean, you've saved me, and you said that was a promise you made, and you accomplished it, so are you going to go home? And he's like, I think... I can't remember if it was her. I think it was Atsunaga he was talking to, but maybe it was her. But the conversation come up about like going back home. He's like, I don't even know how to, you know, because he talks about like there not really being anything back home for him because his mom and dad died a while back, and because of the way he looked, it's kind of led to people probably like ostracizing him or starting shit with him. You know, he takes after his dad in that regard, like same has his dad's probably like not probably definitely has his dad's face and hair, but when you look at the picture, like see his mom's kind of got that delinquent like Yankee type of feel to herself as well, but we don't know how they died. But the way like his family had never really come up outside of the motto stuff made me wonder, like, was like, I was like, it can't just be an adopted thing. It's like, no, those seem like to be his biological parents, so it just, I'm wondering what the circumstances were that they died. And you also can't forget, Takeru also has that symbol on his hand, which is only for people from Denji High-End. But if he's from a different world, like I said, my theory was he's actually from this world, but somehow he went to that world, or maybe both his biological parents were from this world and went to that world, and he just has it by birthright, just being born, he ended up having it. Takeru doesn't really know and fully understand everything that's led him here, but you know, it was all worthwhile to kind of meet up with the person that obviously he likes. And even Tsukimiya is like, the fact is that you are still here must prove that you still have more to do here, so you know, keep at it. And obviously she's going to cheer him on because they're going to have a festivity kind of dance in support of the Centennial Pandemonium, because it's like, right, kind of giving a blessing, because Denji High-End has always come out on top in the aftermath of the Centennial Pandemonium. So it's like, right, we need to kind of keep that tradition going and cheer whoever's going to fight on. And so this solidifies things for Takeru. You know, he ultimately talks to Seimei about it later on and accepts the responsibility of like, right, I have this power, but I'm also here for a reason, so I might as well see this through. Because, you know, for him to be helpful to people in that regard, and also, you know, Tsukimiya, it's like, I can do some good here, so that's worthwhile. Because, you know, because he had talked about like his family's motto of kind of like, I forgot the exact wording, but it's like the first half of this episode's title about like don't like live alone or something like that. Like obviously kind of playing into the whole humans aren't like their own islands, that humans are meant to coexist and not be alone. That's just like human nature, kind of playing into that a little bit. I also love Yura and Atsunaga are nearby, and she's like, "Oh, you're not going to interrupt?" He's like, "No, not this one. At least not for tonight." So him and Takeru and Atsunaga get chosen to be the ones who are going to board the Great Shikigami. Basically, two people are chosen, and instead of a regular Shikigami, all the Omyoji gather their power and funnel it into two 5 stars to kind of lead the charge. And obviously, Yura, Atsunaga's kind of bummed, like, right, it's usually him and Yura, but she's like, yo, I'm here as backup, so in case you guys screw up or one of you needs to tag out, I'll be here to fill in, but don't die out there, But, obviously last episode she had a lot of feelings about the Atsunaga and Takeru of it all, because she kind of felt like she was being left behind. But it's like, no, like we're all in this together. We got to do our part. Because even Sime can't participate because he has to be the foundation that basically keeps like the energy flowing that allows the barrier between the two worlds to like stay open. And then we had that performance by Tsukimiya while everything's happening, and they summon the Great Shikigami, and they go up against this god, and it's pretty tough because to the point like it's breaking free of the thing holding them. At one point, like these rings start popping around its hands, and even Takeru took notice of like these crystals that were growing. He's like, what is that? And later on we see them step on it, so I'm like, that's definitely got to be some major clue going forward to what end and what exactly they are and what they do. Who knows? We didn't see any direct effect they had on a fight, but it could also be a thing of maybe that's kind of implying like maybe that's the Oni world encroaching upon Denji Heian, and maybe like jumping ahead a little bit, but maybe it's a thing of the more like they lose and things go bad, the more Denji Heian gets corrupted, and maybe that's something that can't be reversed. It's always in progress every time they lose, type of thing. We'll have to. I'll talk about that more later, but nothing they did initially works on this thing because they're hitting it and punching it and hitting it with spells, but nothing's working because this thing just keeps going forward until Yura recognizes. She's like, yo, that thing is using the 7th step, which I swear there's something I don't think it was an anime, and I don't think it was from a video game, but there's something I remember. I want to say it had to be a webtoon, but specifically a manhwa, which is interesting because this is Japanese and obviously manhwa are Korean, so but I mean there's still overlap in some regard. Maybe the wording's a little differently, but But I swear I read something, had something with like the 7th step in. I feel like I remember. I don't even remember if it was a good guy or bad guy, but I feel like I remember someone using like the steps, and you have to like it's all about like, yo, we need to stop this person before they complete the steps. It might not even been 7 steps. It might have been 10 steps. I tried looking for it. I cannot tell you what it was. It's going to bother the hell out of me because I'm like, I know I've seen that decently recently in something. I just can't place what it was. Like I said, it might have been 7 steps, might have been 10, whatever the case may be. The really interesting thing is Yura says like, yo, that's an Onmyo technique. And they're like, wait, that an Oni is using? So it probably answers a question I think I might have broached previously. Like, could it be that Onis were once humans? Maybe that's kind of what they turn into. Like, maybe kind of what was happening to Takeru last episode and this episode kind of getting corrupted. Maybe that has something to do with that. Maybe not. Like, or it just could be like, yo, like they've watched and studied the people of Denji Heian enough that they're able to copy their techniques, or maybe the head honcho in the Oni world used to be a human. Maybe not all the other Oni are, but I don't know. There's so many different possibilities of what that could be. But this 7th technique was like a winding up for a powerful punch, and Takeru countered it with his own punch. But their Shikigami, even the Great Shikigami, got heavily damaged, and Atsunaga sacrifices himself, kicking Takeru out, and tries to make a sacrifice. But just like his predecessor did trying to save him, history repeating itself, it didn't work. Even sacrificing himself, it wasn't enough. And the Shikigami was destroyed. And then you see that moment, it has like the core where Atsunaga is, and it crushes it. And then like all the Onmyoji get killed, including Yura, because she's in shock about what happened to Atsunaga. And it's kind of like, wait, I was like, are we setting up for another rewind? I mean, like, I kind of figured, I don't know. I was wondering, like, would there ever be another time loop to this? And it seems like there is. There's no, like, going back just to one time, so. But that's heartbreaking, where it's like, he tries to rush to help, but then Seimei's there, and he's like, why aren't you doing anything to help? And Seimei's kind of like, this Denji Heian is done. And you're like, what? And even Takeru's like, wait, what do you mean by that? Which broaches a million questions of like, wait, does he know what's going on here? Like, that's why I'm curious of, does he know that, like, Denji Heian, like, does get destroyed? And, like, I wonder if there's, like, some kind of, initially I was like, maybe there's some, like, almost, Dead Man Switch contingency plan where things kind of reset. Like, or is he talking about, like, this version? Like, because there's multiple ways to interpret it. He's been around for 1,000 years, so maybe he's seen Denji Heian get destroyed time and time. Like, there have been times that, yeah, it's been, peaceful this, like, for a millennia, but maybe before then it was destroyed. And so he's witnessed this destruction before. Maybe, like, before the millennia of peace, he was maybe, like, the last survivor of the original, or at least either the original or some version of the previous Denji Heian. He's a survivor of it, and he's kind of been able to keep things going for this past 1,000 years with peace and trying to, like, keep the Oni at bay. But it was only a matter of time as they've gotten stronger and more aggressive, and as we can see, learning Onmyo techniques. But then the other theory is, well, could it be that he does remember every time, like, time resets? Because I also broached the question, what if time has been resetting here? What if time's been looping here before Takeru got here? Possibility, or maybe it does purely revolve around Takeru being the one that time loops. But I was like, he acted like he really didn't know what Takeru was talking about. So I feel like they would have had a sooner conversation if he knew what was what. He would have believed Takeru immediately. So it feels like it can't be that. But yeah, like, rubble starts falling. Takeru's practically about to die. Well, not practically. He does die again. And he sees Tsukimiya as well as other dead civilians. And closes his eyes, opens them again, and he's right back to where he was previously. And just seeing him, like, hitting the ground, like, screaming. Because at least last time he was happy. But now it's just like, it's this harsh reality of, because you almost wonder, like, is it possible to change anything? Because even though things played out differently, Tsukimiya still ended up dying, and there's so many people that died. He knows, like, Atsunaga died, other people died, and it's almost like, wait, I'm back here again. Like, is there any, like, changing things? Like, even though, like, she didn't die the same way, she still ended up dead. So it's almost going to be like, how long can you keep doing this before you have a complete and utter meltdown? And it seems like he's already having one, and this is just the second loop. How long can this go on? Like, how do you prepare? Because now you're going to have to explain everything all over again. You're going to be a little bit more prepared this time, sure, to broach that conversation with everyone. But it's just like, because I think it's also, he let himself believe, like, I did it. I protected the person I wanted to protect, and now it's like, no, she still died. Like, and I'm wondering, will he eventually get to the point where he feels like, can I do anything to change this, or is it all set in stone? So, yeah, so I think we do have quite a few more resets maybe in our future, maybe. This probably won't be the last. So we'll see how all of this plays out going forward into the next episode. But really, that's all I wanted to talk about. So the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.